You've taken a wrong turn down Creep Street.
Should I pull Kale on nights with thin veil? May I pick one that brings enduring love, someone kind, of compatible mind, who will also treat me well. To this person I vow, by the sturdy oak bough, in turn I will be kind. A Samhain prayer for a good marriage.
Citizens of the Milky Way, my name is Dylan Hackworth.
I'm Maureen Bogey.
And yes, what you just heard was a little Samhain prayer for a good marriage, and Lord, let it be a blessed marriage this Samhain.
That's true. Yes, yours truly, the two true of us.
Yes,
are getting married this Samhain.
Yes.
This Halloween, this Saturday.
Yes, let me tell you, the Lord and Lady of Creep Street are making it official.
There we go.
As always, let me just get started up top. Follow us on Facebook and Instagram at Creep Street Podcast, Twitter at Creep Street Pod. And of course, if you would like to support this show and get some extra goodies, just go to www.patreon.com/Creep Street Podcast. And
that's right.
Oh my God.
What is it? Okay, folks at home, Dylan right now has his hand up behind his ear, a gesture, but also a utilitarian move to maybe improve his hearing.
I think I hear a profound voice. Profound voice proclaiming the names of our Creep Street elite at the $10 level.
Gosh, let's hear it.
Of course, the Dream, James Watkins. The Finnish Face via a Lungfist. The Heartbreak Kid, Chris Hackworth. The Vivacious Vicky McHugh. The Notorious Nicholas Barker. The oh-so-suave Sean Richardson. The British Bonebreaker, Bex Martin. The Madman Marcus Hall. The Tenacious Teresa Hackworth. And a newcomer, just in time for Halloween.
Ooh, baby, you know we love that.
The Terrifying Taylor Lashmet.
Ooh, terrifying Taylor. Welcome to the Creep Street Elite.
That's right, baby. If you'd like to join Taylor and the rest of the Creep Street Elite, just head on over to patreon.com/Creep Street Podcast. But oh my God.
Oh my God. We are just...
The veil is thin, gentlemen.
We are so jazzed to talk about this. I am ready to learn. I'm ready to talk.
Oh, yeah.
I'm ready to listen, as a matter of fact.
Please.
So, since I'm in the mood of listening, of listenership,
yeah,
would you please talk to us about our topic today?
We are talking about Samhain and the origins of Halloween. My source today, ladies and gentlemen, is a book called Samhain, Rituals, Recipes, and Lore for Halloween by Diana Rachel Llewellyn.
That's a name.
That's a name.
Diana Rachel Llewellyn.
Ooh, now, let me fill you in about this little thing called Samhain.
Okay.
You see, Samhain is the final stop on the pagan wheel of the year.
Oh, I see.
And it's at this time of year that the harvest is complete. So the goddess, baby, the triple goddess has descended to the underworld to be with the one she loves. Now, what does Samhain mean for us old mortals?
Yeah, what's the deal?
Well, you see, as I said, it's at this time, it's believed that the veil between the living and the dead is at its thinnest, allowing for the spirits of past loved ones to visit. You see, according to the wheel of the year, Samhain marks the end of one year and the beginning of another. The harvest has been collected, and now we got to brace for winter.
Oh, yeah. You really got to brace for it.
That's right.
For Christ's sakes.
The crone now reigns supreme.
Okay.
And for pagans, both modern and ancient, this veil separating the two worlds is almost like a membrane. But know this, While Samhain is a night to commune with past friends and family, other entities may pass through as well.
Okay.
This makes Samhain prime time for magic and divination.
Yes.
Well, as you probably guessed, Samhain and Halloween sort of walk hand in hand. Practicing pagans, they take a variety of stances on Halloween. Some love it, some see it as like a bastardization of Samhain, while others don't mind either way. And I would say
Right.
probably the majority of pagans, at least the ones that, they like both,
Right.
And later, Maureen, as I said, she's going to discuss the origins of modern Halloween. Of what
More
we-
kind of like Halloween within the last, 150 years.
Exactly.
Type situation.
Exactly.
That kind of, and a little more, to be honest with you guys, up top, it's going to be a little bit American-centric.
Yeah.
Okay?
Well, my part isn't, but Maureen's is.
But
Because
mine
obviously
is.
ours pertains to the Celts. My half does.
Right.
Also, quick note. For pagans in the southern hemisphere, Samhain is technically April 30th to May 1st, unlike October 31st to November 1st here, but various sources I've seen said that it's more about the intention.
Yes, exactly.
So if you're a practicing, pagan or Wiccan in the southern hemisphere, it's more about like many things, it's more about your intention. So
Exactly.
from what I've heard, I'm sure some people take the stance, no, you have to do it depending on your
Yeah.
hemispheres, but I've seen other people say, it's more about the intent.
Yeah, I have seen a bunch of videos by on YouTube. I don't know if her channel is named Harmony Nice.
Oh, yeah,
or
she's
if that
cool.
is her name. But so I'm sure if you just typed in Harmony Nice in YouTube, she'll come up. But I think she did a really good job of explaining it to me because,
Right.
like I'm not pagan or Wiccan or anything. So just
Right.
kind of like making it very as basic. She said that, some people kind of like with really anything in any sort of group is that some people think that you absolutely must practice in accordance with the hemisphere that you're in.
Oh, really?
And some people thought that you absolutely must do that, and those are kind of the the more hardcore people. But overall, most people truly don't care.
Right.
And it's like you said, it's about the intention.
Yes.
And I think I would say probably the majority of people kind of fall along the way that they practice falls along the calendar that is, like this hemisphere. But it really just depends on each person, and there's no hard and fast rule.
Very good point. And another book I want to I didn't use any of it for this show, but an excellent book called Raymond Buckland's Complete Book of Witchcraft. And it's kind of like a textbot for witchcraft. And it's even got questions at the end of each chapter that you can quiz yourself with, but it teaches you step by step how to perform rituals at Samhain. Like I said, it comes more from a Wiccan perspective. So if you want to check it out, if you're a Wiccan, if you're a listener, because I know we have a few Wiccans, we have some pagan listeners, whichever floats your boat. Very cool stuff.
Yeah, and that is something that we're learning more about too, and like really interested in, because it's like, at least from what I've been able to see so far, it's cool to see where some of the overlap is between these different things, these different religions or beliefs, whether it's paganism or Wiccan, and some of it overlaps and some of it doesn't, and same thing with Christianity, Judaism,
right.
anything. You know what I mean? It's just interesting to see like,
Right.
oh, and we'll kind of get to this too, how Samhain kind of mixed with Christian and Catholic ideology, and how that kind of like percolated together to make this own little pumpkin soup, this little Halloween stew that we have today.
Absolutely. Oh, and also, I'm going to go ahead and give her a title. She's the Creep Street Pagan in Chief. Nicole Pascal.
Oh my God, that's a very cool title.
Who, big fan of her.
She's so fantastic. Huge friend of the show.
Nicole Pascal, you might remember, she requested the Rajneesh Purim episode that we did.
Yes.
A lot of fun. She's one of our favorites. Mo, I know you and her sometimes get in some drunken Insta DM messages.
I mean, we've been there. Like, I'm not like out here trying to brag or to drag. You know what I mean? I'm out here just trying to like live my truth.
We got Nicola on speed dial here, baby.
But she's also got great art, Crescent Moon Cult.
Yes, check
right?
out Crescent Moon Cult too. She gave us a little cool excerpt that we're going to put in here later on.
Yes.
But shout out to the Creep Street Pagan in Chief, Nicole Pascal.
That's right.
Now, just to clear up any confusion about Samhain, it's a Gaelic word, and it's actually spelled Samhain. Now, like many folks, myself, when I first saw this word, I said Samhain.
Oh, look, Samhain.
And
Yeah,
that's normal.
Me too.
Don't feel bad. But in my defense, I'm pretty sure the first time I heard the word Samhain was when I was young, and I saw Halloween Part 2. And do you remember?
Yes.
There's that part where Donald Pleasance, it's like written on the wall.
Yeah, and he's saying Samhain.
He says Samhain, which I was, when I was young, I didn't know any difference, so I just assumed it was called
So you were like,
Samhain.
yeah, it's Samhain.
Oh, it's
and
Samhain.
it looks like it.
Well, what I think maybe, and I could be dead wrong, is they knew it's pronounced Samhain, but they thought, well, like American audiences and stuff, maybe
true.
not. Maybe it might be confusing. So I wonder if they did it purposely.
That's
on that.
actually, yes. That's a good idea. I wonder if that's a very good idea.
But yeah, so just to clear that up, I made that mistake. But yes, it's Samhain. For most Gaelic speakers, Samhain means summer's end. That's what it means in Gaelic. And it should also be noted that modern Celtic and Druidic pagans may have a variety of other names for this holiday depending on their specific Celtic roots. An example the book gives is if you were of a specific brand of pagan, Welsh brand of pagan, you might call it, and I'm sure I'm going to say this wrong, Welsh is maybe the hardest thing.
Yeah, sure is.
Nos Callan Gialf.
Hell yeah.
It's spelled
hell yeah, man.
Noscallangaeaf. And I'm sure I said it all wrong. Now, for the ancient Celts, Samhain was the most important of the 4 Celtic fire festivals.
Hell yeah. Also love Fire Festival.
That's right, babe. Fire Festival. It's not that douchebag music festival where you go and get a grilled cheese. It's not that.
Right.
It's one of the 4 Celtic fire festivals. The other 3 being Imbolc, Beltane, and Glugnashla, which I'm sure is wrong.
Oh no, but yeah, hell yeah.
After the first frost and the full moon of October, the Celtic people would let their hearth fires burn out. And after they were extinguished, the tribes would gather in full to watch the Druid priests relighting the sacred community fire. They would do so using the friction of a wheel and spindle. And of course, these instruments all have a meaning, a metaphor.
Yeah.
The wheel represented the sun, and as it would be turned from east to west, it would shoot off sparks. Using friction.
Right.
And at this time, folks would offer up prayers, offerings, sacrifices pertaining to their particular needs.
Yeah.
And here comes another word I don't know. Then they'd wheel out the crumb crotch.
Give me that crumb crotch, give him a soul.
Spelled CROM-CRUACH. I'm going to say cum crotch.
Yeah, we're saying crumb
crotch. Let's just say crumb crotch.
Crumb crotch.
So they'd wheel out the crumb crotch.
Okay.
And this was a stone pillar that had been chiseled to depict some sort of being.
Oh, okay, not what I don't know what I thought it was going to be, but not that.
Now, Christian historians would maintain that this was the visage of an old pagan god from pre-Christian Ireland who could only be satiated with human sacrifice.
Interesting.
And this was done to avoid the god's wrath and incur favor, of course. Now, this could very well have been the case, but we also know that the Christianization of Ireland, Christian historians would paint pagans in brutal and savage light.
Yes.
And also would kind of paint their practices in probably a more brutal light than they actually were.
Exactly.
As a way, and if they didn't do that, then they would also adopt some of their things, Christianize them, whatnot.
Yeah.
So it's also possible that this crumb crotch was just a depiction of the sun or some other aspect of nature.
Right.
Now, villagers would then leave offerings of food at the edge of town to appease wandering spirits and fairy folk.
Oh, yeah.
Then, either a black sheep, a black sow, or cattle would be sacrificed.
Okay.
Everyone would return home with a brand that was lit from the fire of the community fire. And then when they got home, they'd relight the fires in their own hearths with that fire.
Okay, I really like
kind of
that.
A sweet, kind of a way to.
It's like
it's community.
Rebirth
It's a simple, yeah, and you're
community.
doing it as your community.
Yeah,
that's really
strength
cool.
with each other, and killing an animal.
Absolutely. Torches would be lit and placed at the edges of the fields. Now, for the ancient Celts, it was a sin to relight your fire in any other fashion. It had to be with the village. It was considered a sin to do it.
It wasn't
on your
just
own.
like, this is like kind of a nice thing to do. It was like, no, this is the way.
It's not like, you're going to a holiday party and they're playing White Elephant or whatnot. Or, Or, and you can bring a gift if you want. You don't have to. No. You got to light your fire with the community fire, fucker.
Yeah. It's like, no, this is required.
No lone wolfing it here, babe. No lone wolfing. And then finally, the Celts would dress up in animal costumes or some fearsome creature. And as we mentioned before, though the thinning of the veil at Samhain would allow past loved ones to revisit, unpleasant spirits and fairies who had a rep, fairies especially, who had a rep for being mean little bastards.
Right.
These costumes would prevent any fairies, witches, or wicked spirits from kidnapping the living.
Right.
Some other creatures that, if you were a Celt in that time, you wouldn't want to stumble across. One would be the puka, a shape-shifting fairy prone to both seduction and kidnapping.
Oh my God, what, a puka?
Yeah. Remember Puka, the Harvey, the tall rep, the puka? And then there was the Lady Gwyn, who was an evil spectral woman who would appear dressed in white and sometimes carrying her own head.
That sucks.
Or she'd just be headless with no head.
Right, yeah.
Well, Samhain, as we know, has gifted us with many things that are still in common practice at Halloween to this day.
Yeah.
In the Middle Ages, there came to be a lot of new customs, I'm guessing probably through the process of Christianization.
Right.
There was introduced to Samhain a lot of new traditions that you'll start to recognize. They're not exactly like they are today, but you'll start to see little hints, particularly in the Welsh and Scottish traditions. Bonfires called nightlights were lit across the land. And likewise, rambunctious boys would run through the countryside with torches, planting them in the ground as they went. And as we know, the intention of this was to scare off things like fairies and evil witches. Now, if one were to go out at night around this time, you would need some kind of a lantern for protection. So often turnips would be hollowed out and a piece of burning coal placed inside them. Pair that with the old Christian legend of Old Jack.
Yeah.
If you remember, it was the old mean man, the devil. What was the story? It was
Stingy Jack?
Stingy Jack.
Yes.
Well, you replace after time, those turnips get replaced with pumpkins, and my, oh my, you've got yourself a goddamn jack-o'-lantern.
You sure do. A good old American Christian God-fearing jack-o'-lantern.
That's right. From a guy who was so bad he tricked the devil. Isn't that the story? He
was like, hey, if I died, I'm going to go to heaven. And they were like, no. And then he was like, I'm going to go to hell. And the devil was like, no. And so he just was kind of like wandering the darkness.
Well, did he trick the devil with the jack-o'-lantern? Wasn't that the thing?
I don't know how he pissed off the devil. That might have been how. I don't really know.
Well, then in some old Irish, Manx, and Scottish traditions, on the nights leading up to Samhain, the poor would go from door to door, doing what is called mumming or souling. They would offer up prayers and songs for the dead in exchange for soul cakes to eat. And you guessed it, that's trick-or-treating, baby.
There it is, baby.
And of course, as we mentioned earlier, dressing up in scary things to scare away evil spirits. It's your costume, motherfucker.
There we go. It is an exchange of goods and services.
Now, remember we were talking about our good old pal, the pagan in chief, Nicole Pascal.
Yeah.
I asked her, I said, hey, look, we're getting married on Samhain. As a couple of, as noobs, as people who are, is that a good idea? And it's it's a harvest moon this Halloween, too. Is this a good thing? Well, the first thing I asked her was, as a modern pagan, how do you celebrate today? And this is what she said.
We keep the celebration simple here, having a feast, which consists of whatever indulgent meal you may like. Charcuterie board is my personal favorite. We make sure to leave a plate of extra food outside as an offering to ancestors and other spirits.
There we go. Digging that. She's keeping it OG.
We love to hear this.
That's right.
And this is accompanied by drinking, as it's hardly a feast without drink.
Okay, I agree.
I'm loving this lady.
Now, as Samhain is the time when the veil between worlds is thin, we use this time to contact and honor our ancestors. And Samhain is one of the main fire festivals here, and of course we light a bonfire, and we take time to write a letter to someone who has passed on. And we throw the letters into the bonfire. It's a really great way to let go of any unresolved feelings you may have had for someone gone too soon. And the rest of the night usually consists of celebrating and remembering the dead. It's a real nostalgic night.
That sounds so lovely.
That sounds beautiful.
I really think that's beautiful.
And the book made a good point of distinguishing Halloween is for getting your jollies, and Samhain is Imagine like Christmas.
Oh, okay.
You got your OG Christmas, which is,
Sure.
birth of Christ.
Oh, yeah.
Mary, Joseph, all the animals, three kings, all
yeah.
that stuff.
We got that
And then
big
you
old,
got
a big old star.
right, and then you got your modern Christmas, which is a blend of both. Your baby Jesus, but you also got Santa. You got
We got
gifts.
Rudolph. You know,
You got Rudolph. It's kind of that is Halloween. Samhain, I guess the best equivalent I could make. Samhain would be like your nativity scene of Halloween.
I think that's to me at least,
Right.
is a very good analogy.
Right.
Yeah.
Samhain is the serious, remembering past loved ones. Halloween's for tipping over them cows, egging,
We're tipping cow.
throwing some toilet paper in the trees.
Right. Acting nasty.
And I asked her, we're obviously getting married. It's a full moon, a harvest moon. Is this
Yeah.
good? And she said, definitely.
It's a time for new beginnings, so it's perfect timing. Also, so you can't tell me you aren't going to do a pumpkin head photo shoot on your wedding day.
Oh, good idea. We will.
Let's
That was that is cool.
Isn't that cool?
I like that. And it also reminds me of Dia de los Muertos
It kind of
/ Day
does.
of the Dead.
The Catholic Church introduced All Saints Day, which
Mm-hmm.
what is like November 1st or 2nd, something like that.
Yeah, so I believe it was November 1st was All Saints Day, and it was called Hollow Mass.
Yeah.
Or Hallowmas.
Yes,
Kind of
yes.
like
Hallowmas.
Christmas, Hallowmas.
Right. Have you ever looked at all the weird names for Halloween? It's like all the
I know, it's wild.
All Hallows Eve, Halloween with like an apostrophe.
Yeah.
Halloween or whatever. Yeah.
Right. But then All Hallows Eve would then be the 31st.
Right.
So then Hallow, it became, Een is the short for Eve, and then so it over time it became Halloween.
Right. What I kind of love is all these names: Samhain, Halloween, All Hallows Eve,
Hallowmas.
Hallowmas. They all somewhat overlap, but they're all sort of their own thing too.
Totally.
It's
yeah.
hard to grasp. And so obviously, as our listener, if we make any mistakes, we apologize. They overlap so much, but yet at the same time aren't quite, it's not like they're just interchangeable.
Totally, right. One of the YouTube videos I watched when I was researching this, and now I don't remember which video it was, they described Halloween as a patchwork holiday. And I thought that was a really good way to describe Halloween.
Right.
It's a combination of so many different things coming
really-
together to
it
make
truly is.
itself almost in a way.
Right.
And then also it really depends on where you are. Just different traditions and different practices were happening in different areas.
Right,
and
right.
yeah, it's just cool seeing how really all holidays evolve over time. Especially interesting for Halloween because I think we know that Christmas has changed so much over time
Right.
from being, its own thing at Christmas, but then also Yule, and then
Right.
slowly coming together. But that has all been so far away from our collective memory.
Exactly.
Whereas Halloween is changing all the time still. So I think that's why it's like
Exactly.
we notice how it's kind of a patchwork. Yeah.
Absolutely. Well, Maureen, why don't you fill us in on the modern aspects of Halloween?
How Halloween has kind of transformed and evolved in the US is very interesting because nowadays, at least, it seems Halloween is such an American holiday. Like, it's so big here and we do so much about it. It's so
Right.
commercialized.
Well, I think they say that after Christmas, it's the second biggest that people spend money on.
Yeah,
I think so. More than the 4th of July, more than Thanksgiving.
Halloween seems to be so much of a bigger deal than it's at least seems to be
Right.
in, I'll just say Europe overall, but
Right,
mainly I
right.
would say kind of like UK and Ireland and really all over the world. Like I
think it's now
people-
become really popular almost everywhere.
Yeah, I guess that like people do celebrate it, but it seems kind of like the US and Canada are the like center of it. Do you know what I
Right,
mean?
right.
Which is interesting because it certainly is not that way. Because as we already talked about, the origins of Samhain, of Halloween, are in, Ireland with the Celts, of
Right.
course. But when the Puritans came over to America from England, they were like, okay, excuse me, Halloween is too pagan or too Catholic. Okay, so it's either too far one way or too far the complete opposite
Can't even
way.
tell the difference.
They say, but it's too extreme. Okay, it's not Puritan, it's not puritanical. We're not doing it. Okay,
Right.
They didn't celebrate anything, let alone
Yeah.
anything that could be even misconstrued.
Yeah. Pretty much smiling was a goddamn sin to a Puritan.
So for a while, as time went on, there definitely started to be more kind of like harvest festivals.
Right.
And some of the more secular parts of Halloween would kind of start to bleed in a little bit. And I think that might have been because of there were, after a while, it wasn't just Puritans. There were more people that were coming over that were Catholic or any other, religion that was celebrating Halloween, or even not, religiously, just for, culturally. So some of that started to bleed in, but you know what? It wasn't really until the mid 1800s when there was, a huge influx of immigrants coming in to the United States from all over the world.
Right.
That was bringing in their views of Halloween, but especially there was a huge spike in Irish immigrants. All of a sudden, these areas of the country have a huge Irish population and influence.
Right.
And so they were celebrating Halloween and kind of brought it back to not even brought it back, just brought it to the area. Some of the customs that the Irish brought were things like bobbing for apples.
Very cool. I did not know that.
Yeah, I don't know if I've ever actually done it. It kind of makes me nervous.
Well, nowadays especially, it's putting your face in a barrel of water where everyone else is sticking their now
it's like unconscionable.
Yeah.
But, just in general, I'd always kind of freaked me out. But I guess they kind of brought that over, and originally it was a divination game.
Bobbing for apples was originally about divination.
Yes.
I did not know that.
Yes. As well as a lot of other things that we had talked about when Dylan was talking about Samhain, like the jack-o'-lanterns, turning those turnips, then they're like, hold on, we got pumpkins everywhere, so now we got jack-o'-lanterns. But they also kind of brought around the idea that playing little tricks on each other, like doing the trick in trick-or-treating. And the idea originally with it was supposed to be like, maybe either these trickster spirits were playing these tricks, or maybe it was a night where you could get away with things because you could play a little trick, but you could just blame it on a spirit that was there because the veil was so thin.
Right.
So it kind of became a tradition to just like play little pranks on your neighbors and your friends and stuff. But God damn it, did it get out of hand.
Oh boy.
And so it kind of quickly started getting into vandalism. It could be kind of dangerous.
Right.
So people literally would kind of eventually be like, hey, like, I don't want you to vandalize my stuff.
Right.
Here, I'll give you a little something so you don't, like, burn my fence down.
Right.
And that became kind of a trick or treat type situation where you're like, hey, okay, if I give you this little candy, then you're not gonna fucking fuck up my life.
I love a good fear-based holiday.
Exactly.
And I don't mean fear like stories of ghouls and goblins. I love a holiday based around the threat of physical harm.
Absolutely. But there's a good example of how one town in America kind of made a huge leap forward into kind of what the chaos of Halloween in the early 1900s.
Right.
They did a good job of transitioning it and transforming it into kind of the fun, family-friendly Halloween.
That's right. They put a leash on the mad dog.
They sure did, but you know what? This dog likes to be leashed. So in 1912, in a place called Hiawatha, Kansas, there was a woman named Mrs. Elizabeth Krebs, and she was head of the Hiawatha Garden Center or Garden Club, excuse me. She was like a well-respected lady about town.
Right.
She had like this lovely garden in her own yard, and she absolutely adored it. And on November 1st, 1912, she wakes up and just her garden is a gosh darn mess. Teens have just ransacked it. There are fences are pushed down. The whole neighborhood is an absolute mess. And everyone is like, this is insane. Everyone just goes crazy every Halloween because it's the devil's night. And you know what? She's like, hello, my name is Elizabeth Krebs. And I think I should throw a party next Halloween.
Okay.
So that the kids will kind of come over to my house and we'll have some things to do, some kind of harvest fest type things to do, and then hopefully they'll be so tired that they won't do any nonsense.
Wow.
And god damn it, that is what she did! October 31st, 1913, she has a little house party type situation at her house.
Okay.
She thinks it goes well. She wakes up November 1st, 1913. Everything is amuck again. The teens still went around the town, and I'm sure it just wasn't teens. I'm sure it was also some grown-ass adults
Sure.
acting foolish.
Sure. I'm sure.
And she was like, you know what? I'm going to throw a huge ass party. And I'm going to take literally all year to plan it. This is going to be my job. I'm going to use all of my time, my resources, and my money, and I'm going to throw a huge party for the whole town. All of a sudden, Halloween, 1914, baby. People show up
Wow.
in costumes. Everyone's having an amazing time. In the town square, there's a big party. And then she's like, hey guys, this is going to be so fun. We're going to go on, they called it a frolic. It's basically like a march or like a parade.
Really?
And they basically just like went walking around, and they just like marched in this parade around the town, and the kids just did it for so long, just walking around. They just kind of like, they were really into that and thought that was fun. And they did it for so long. They got so tired. And then on November 1st, 1914, she wakes up. The garden is perfect.
My God.
The town is safe. Nothing has been destroyed. No vandalism. The chief of police himself thanked Mrs. Elizabeth Krebs in person.
She fed the fairy folk.
She did. She did.
She appeased the fae folk.
Oh my God, Dylan, she did.
She did what the pagans did. She appeased the fae folk. You see?
Wow. That just blew my mind.
And just so everyone knows, there's a very funny episode of Drunk History where they covered this.
Yes, it's really, you
and
guys
it's
should.
real funny. But yeah, in a weird way, she was kind of doing the pagan thing.
That's right, like giving these offerings
She
to
was.
them. And that is interesting. And I think that's a very narrow line to walk, just with dealing with people in general, because I think it's true. It's like if you make people happy, they, will hopefully behave.
Oh, right.
But also, you don't want to turn the children of the neighborhood into absolute brats.
Right, absolutely.
So she seemed to toe that line well. Damn, that's hard. So yeah, she did a great job. And I guess from then on, the town had this like great party on Halloween. That town was a little bit ahead of its time in terms of the rest of the country. Really, in the 20s and the 30s and kind of even still the 40s. In some places, it was still kind of more of a night of pranks and chaos. And there was still fun, Halloween-y things that people did, of course.
Well, there's still...
But it was still kind of had that edge to it.
Absolutely.
But in the 1950s, especially, things kind of changed because of the baby boomers.
Right.
These people, their parents, now had children. So just kind of because there were just so many more children, Halloween transitioned into more of a family holiday. And it was and there was a conscious effort to kind of make it more geared towards children, kind of geared more towards trick-or-treating for children so that they can get candy walking around and things like that. And that's something that overall is a good thing. So Halloween is very, very unique for many reasons. And kind of like you said, Halloween is, right after Christmas, at least in the U.S., in terms of like amount of money spent.
Commercialization, both by consumers and corporate spending money to,
totally. Is something that I think lends itself to that and that helps make Halloween be so big is because of horror movies.
Yeah.
So there are some horror movies that seem more Halloween-y than others for sure.
Right.
But really any horror movie really works with the Halloween season.
Exactly.
So it's kind of like we have this whole wealth of movies that kind of get us more in the spirit and kind of gear us more towards a specific time of year. Kind of similar where there's Christmas movies that really kind of like you watch these at Christmas and this is like your traditions. Whereas there's not, I mean, there's exceptions obviously, but you're not like, we need to watch our 4th of July movies.
Right. All right, ladies and gentlemen, but that's going to wrap us up for Samhain and the origins of Halloween.
That's right.
Maureen, thank you for doing all that Halloween research.
Thank you.
Citizens of the Milky Way, if you would like to support us, go to patreon.com/CreepStreetPodcast. My name is Dylan Hackworth.
I'm Maureen Bogey.
A good night and goodbye.
Goodbye.